Okay. Unbelievably, I think.
Yeah, it's live now, I think.
Okay. I think I
Your
would turn
sigh,
on.
Ahmed.
Hmm?
Your sigh. Turn off your camera, Ahmed.
No, because it's live now and it's gonna do not distract.
Okay.
Okay. So, Salãmun Alaykum. This is the Quran study for um, June 2nd. And go from, God willing, from verses 7:138 until possibly, well, we'll see how far I go. And name of God, most gracious, most merciful. May He guide us to do a fruitful Quran study and learn, and may He teach us His Quran. So this study is going to be it's pretty much storytelling, really, and we're talking about starting with Shuaib and we are going to be so about Moses and Inshallah. Let me get this up here. Okay.
We're starting now.
Oh, the black right now. Yeah, we waited forever. I think I just got the. Oh, that's okay.
Oh wow.
It was not. You're probably on your business trip, right?
Sorry. No. Yeah. Well, no. I got here like just like 8:30. I got back and then I just put. I was like going for a nap for half hour, and the half hour turned into an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
Or an hour. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
good. That was peaceful.
Assalamu
Yeah.
alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Good.
Welcome back.
Thanks, Masha Allah.
So we were just starting the live. I think the live stream's already started. So
Okay, Masha Allah, thanks.
just starting right now. Okay, so A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Shuaib, cheating, dishonesty, condemned. 785. To Midian, we sent their brother Shuaib. He said, O my people, worship God. You have no other God beside him. Has come to you from your Lord. You shall give full weight and measure when you trade. Do not cheat the people out of their rights. Not corrupt the earth after it has been set straight. This is better for you if you are believers. Refrain from blocking, seeking to repel those who believe from the path of God and do not make it crooked. Remember that you used and he multiplied your number. Consequences for the wicked. Let me just mention something here about blocking every path and seeking to repel those who believe from the path of God. You know, I look at how there's so many of submission that people are creating blockings for the paths. I mean, like you can't look at the videos or you can't watch the audios. It's like I feel like blocking the path to God, seeking to repel people by these kinds of things. You Muslims, the Muslims, with all the hadith, how it becomes so complicated, the belief system and like Sharia law and stuff like that, blocking and it makes it crooked. Do not make the path crooked. And I just can't see how it's more crooked than it got. Also, you look at Christians and making Jesus God when he said Son of God, they've made the path so crooked, if that's what that's referring to. Okay, 787. Now that some of you have believed in what I was sent with, and some have disbelieved, wait until God issues his judgment between us. He is the best judge. Now, it's interesting on that one. Shuaib, was not concerned with the numbers. Just some believed and some disbelieved. You know, it's whatever the out. You say the message. Whoever believes. I always like we're not guardians over the people, but we should have guardian mentality. It's just whoever believes. 788. The arrogant leaders among his people said, "We will evict you, O Shai, who believe with you, from our town, unless you revert." He said, "Are you going to force us?" We would be blaspheming against God if we reverted to your religion after God has saved us from it. How could we revert back to it against the will of God, our Lord? Our Lord's knowledge encompasses all things. We have put our trust in God. Our Lord, grant us a decisive victory over the people. You are the best supporter. The disbelieving leaders among his people said, "If you follow Shuaib, you will be losers." You know, it's no different now. If you think about that, how all the atheists, the secular culture, basically, if you believe in God, you're a loser. You know, scientific community, supposedly the scientific community somehow they've translated that they may know math or some details of science, and that has qualified them to know whether there's a God and what God's system is. You know, it's but anyway, they call us losers, just like in Shuaib's time. The quake annihilated them, leaving them dead in their homes. Those who rejected Shuaib vanished, as if they never existed. Those who rejected Shuaib were the losers. From them, saying, "O people, I have the message of my Lord, and I have advised you. How can I grieve over disbelieving people?" That always strikes me, how our emotional ties, you know, they become severed over, I suppose, over time. You know, you love these people, you try to share the message with them, and then when they disbelieve, they change. You're loyal to God, and like he says here, how can I grieve over disbelieving people? So it's interesting. He was sent to Midian, and in 176, they're called the peoples of the woods. So you imagine the Middle East and you think of the woods, and you don't really think of that, but you can see that time has, the climate has changed, but it used to be a lot of there woods there, obviously. But it's interesting, on the day of their retribution in 189, it's called the Day of the Canopy. So obviously it was a famous or infamous day. Things in disguise. 794. Sent a prophet to any community, we afflicted its people with adversity and hardship, that they may implore. 794. Concept. God gives hardships to so that we'll implore, and he's described that in another verse. We can't remember the verse, but he's talking about the system that he gives you a hardship, you implore him, you implore him alone, he removes the hardship, and then you remove your idols. You get rid of your idols. It's a system. So you're seeing how here he sends a prophet, afflicts its people with adversity and hardship. They implore, and it does nothing but strengthen their faith in God alone, and you remove your idols. What a wonderful system. We look at things too short-sighted sometimes. We say, why is this happening to me? It would be better for us to recognize that, oh, God is sending me a hardship for me to implore him so that I can strengthen my faith. So we're looking at this bad thing that you think happened to you, but you know, it's a reminder or it's a hardship so that you can, he's trying to help you remove your idolatry. SubhanAllah. Blessings in disguise. Okay, so then the next verse is 795. Then we substituted peace and prosperity in place of that hardship. But alas, they turned heedless and said, it was our parents who experienced that hardship before prosperity. Consequently, we punished them suddenly when they least expected it. Most people make the wrong choice. That's the subtitle. Most people make the wrong choice. 796. Had the people of those communities believed and turned righteous, we would have showered them with blessing heaven and the earth. Since they decided to disbelieve, we punished them for what they earned. I was listening to a tape, an audio tape, and the messengers said that since heaven begins here for the righteous, he said, heaven begins here for the righteous. He says, so that means for the righteous, you get whatever you want. The things that you want, he opens the doors to those things, is what he was saying. That it's because heaven begins here. Just like as hell also, we are tasting hell. We come here, we enter, we start our life. Most people are in Satan's domain. But the ones who choose God alone as their Lord and pass the test, then they're in God's domain already here on earth. And this verse, it's interesting because it says we showered with them blessings from heaven and the earth. So obviously you're getting showered with blessings here on earth after you've believed. So it's not just you wait until you die and you move on to the next life, that you're blessed while you're here. It's a fantastic thing. We learned also that the righteous, they do not suffer death. Death is not what we think it is. Death is a different thing. Literally, you just exit this body without the pain, and your just consciousness is elevated, and you're far, but you don't suffer this thing that we what we imagine death of course, it is probably more like the thing we imagine to be horrible for the disbelievers. And unfortunately, they make the wrong choice. Most people have. So it's just what the point I'll reiterate it, is that heaven can begin here. You make the right choice. You enter God's domain. How do you do that? By claiming your submitter, and then by obeying his laws, and you'll be put through a test, a admission test. And once you've proven that you have no other gods beside God, you will be admitted into his domain, inshallah. And your heaven can begin here on earth, subhanAllah. So 797. Of the present communities guarantee that our retribution will not come to them in the night as they sleep. Did the people of today's communities guarantee that our retribution will not come to them in the daytime while they play? Have they taken God's plans for granted? None takes God's plans for granted except the losers. So, people think, oh, those are ancient stories from the past. Retribution. What's retribution? What people don't have in a secular thinking. They don't have place for retribution. There's no space for it. It doesn't fit within the scientific model and cause and effect the way we see it. Of course, we believe in cause and effect. It's just there are hidden causes and effects, deeper underlying things, like your belief in God alone and the effect of being protected by your angels. Those things, those are cause and effect as well. It's just that they're not detectable with the instruments that they have here. Well, that's the thing, is that the people don't, they think there's no retribution. The present communities guarantee that the retribution won't come because they don't even believe in retribution. They think it's a ridiculous idea. I was one of them for a long time. I remember the Christian ministries that you would have some of these televangelists proclaiming about the retribution, and I would laugh at it. So I was completely indoctrinated by the secular notion of it. But God is saying that where's your guarantee? Can you guarantee that? How do you know it's not going to come there? Well, we know that it is inevitable. 7. Does it ever occur to those who inherit earth after previous generations that if we will, we can punish them for their sins and seal their hearts, causing them to turn deaf? Let me read that again. Does it ever who inherit the earth after the previous generations that if we will, we can punish them for their sins and seal their hearts, causing them to turn deaf? That's an astonishing type of deafness. It's interesting because the faith it's in the heart. Where is the heart? I don't know where the heart is of this understanding. It's like the Quran was placed in Muhammad's heart and then transferred to his knowledge, his understanding, but it was first placed in his heart. Where is that? It seems it's obviously part of the soul, and it's interesting that God seals the heart and causing them to turn deaf. Well, it's not the mechanical deaf of the ear that we're talking about. It hears, and it has it's probably allegorical of some sort. But when it's sealed, it can't understand the meaning. It can't understand the point. The essence of what's being shared from God's wisdom is sealed. They're sealed from it. It doesn't enter the heart. So that's an interesting kind of deafness. 7:101. We narrate to you the history of those communities. Their messengers went to them with clear proofs, but they were not to believe in what they had rejected before. God thus seals the hearts of the disbelievers. That's it. That's what we're doing, is we're going through the narration of Shuaib, and then of course coming up to Moses, and last one study was Hud and Noah, Ad, that stuff. We're looking at the history of those communities, and what's clear is that over and over and over again, messengers went to them with clear proofs for their time. Each time has a different proof. If, like, for example, Joseph's time, understanding dreams was a big deal. In Moses's time, magic was in Jesus's time. Healing was a big deal. In Muhammad's time, literary excellence was a big deal. And of course, right now, computers are a big deal. And so for each time, proofs, but most people were not to believe. And they continue to reject exactly what they rejected before. And we talked about this yesterday, just the notion that it just is amazing how human beings are attracted to the distortions, that the human beings have a penchant for. The truth is not really what is interesting to them. Human beings, despite all of their claims, whether they're scientists, that proves it to us that people don't, for the most part, don't accept the truth. It's not in the way they want to do it. It like this verse what was in the past. Okay, so I lost my place here. Okay. That was 7:101. So let me go to 7:102. We found that most of them disregard their covenant. We found most of them wicked. It is our last chance to redeem ourselves. But most people are proven to be stubbornly rebellious and evil. Wow. Most people are, that's another thing. Most of them are wicked, and most people are stubborn, rebellious, and evil. So that just shows you the bar. We think of evil, and in popular culture, evil is just basically those most hills or the supernaturally weird things that you see. I don't know, the twisted understanding of satanic stuff. How people have made it into such a caricature, and they've made evil into such a gore or scary thing, which, I mean, it is scary, but it's in a different way. It's the scary part is that most people are in Satan's domain and they're not aware of it. That's the scary part. And God's, the bar for wicked is pretty low. I mean, we see in the Quran that most people are wicked. Most people are evil. You don't think of that. You think, oh, that's a really nice guy. He's really nice. These people at work, they're really, but if they don't believe, that niceness actually works against you. It's softening you towards them, and then they divert you from awareness of God, and many times they can help create doubt in people too. So this whole process is such a perspective reconstruction. It's like we have to form ourselves, rebuild our mental construct of what the reality is here, what actually is happening, and it takes a lot of time, and God guides us, and that's why we do our things to have that process managed by God. Okay, now we'll start talking about Moses. And of course, this is a big and probably the most famous story of all time. 7:103. After those messengers, we sent Moses with our signs to Pharaoh and his people, but they transgressed. Note the consequences for the wicked. Moses said, "O Pharaoh, I am a messenger from the Lord of the universe. It is incumbent upon me that I do not say about God except the truth. I come to you with a sign from you, Lord. Let the children of Israel go." So he said it's incumbent upon him to say nothing about God except the truth. Well, that's incumbent upon all of us, actually. We should be careful, very careful, to say nothing about God except the truth. And you know, the biggest truth is that there's no other God except God, and He's doing everything. And that's the truth and a more correct understanding of God. 7:106. He said, "If you have a sign, then produce it if you are truthful." That was Pharaoh. Moses, he threw down his staff and he turned it into a tremendous serpent. He took out his hand and it was white to the beholders. The leaders among Pharaoh's people said, "This is no more than a clever magician. He wants to take you out of your land. What do you recommend?" They said, "Respite him and his brother and send summoners to every city. Let them summon every experienced magician." The magicians came to Pharaoh and said, "Do we get paid if we're the winners?" He said, "Yes, indeed. You will even become close to me." They said, "Oh, Moses, either you throw or we're throwing." He said, "You throw." When they threw, they tricked the people's eyes, intimidated them, and produced a great magic. We then inspired Moses, "Throw your staff," whereupon it swallowed whatever they fabricated. The subtitle says, "The truth recognized by the experts." Thus, the truth prevailed, and what they did was nullified. They were defeated then and there. They were humiliated. The magicians fell prostrate. They said, "We believe in the Lord of the universe, the Lord of Moses and Aaron." Okay, before I move on from that, that is astonishing that here you have magicians, you know, they're not God conscious of whatever perhaps their religion is, whatever polytheistic religion that Pharaoh, what the Egyptians were doing. And upon seeing what was produced through Muhammad, through Moses, by seeing the miracle that was produced through Moses, these people became believers instantly, right then and there, on the spot. They said, "We believe," and it's not just you know, their mind has just changed, or some subtle shift. They suddenly, well, I'll read on, and it'll point out to the degree to which they were convinced. Pharaoh said, "Did you believe in him without my permission? This must be a conspiracy you schemed in the city in order to take its people away. You will surely find out. I will cut your hands and feet on alternate sides. Then I will crucify you. That's what they said. They said, we will then return to our Lord. You persecute us simply because we believed in the proofs of our Lord when they came to us. Our Lord, grant us steadfastness and let us die as submitters. So that is, and the strength of that faith immediately upon seeing that proof. It's humbling. Here we have a proof that's 10 times greater, at least, than this proof. And does it? You have to ask yourself: does it bring up this response in you when you hear it when you heard it immediately? Ready to accept your fate, and because you trust in your Lord, and it's humbling. 7:127. The leaders among Pharaoh's people said, will you allow Moses and his people to corrupt the earth and forsake you and your gods? He said, we will kill their sons and spare their daughters. We are much more powerful than they are. It's notice how they thought submission was so backwards that it would corrupt the earth. That they're no different in Pharaoh's time than people are now. They have their cause and effect, the way the world works. They were completely confident in how they thought things got done. And of course, you bring in a belief in one God and that God is doing everything, and your schemes can't do anything. God's control of everything. Magic. It just seems like corruption for them. They were saying it corrupts the earth. Okay, 7:128. Moses said to his people, seek God's help and steadfastly. Earth belongs to God, and he grants it to whomever he chooses from among his servants. The ultimate victory of righteous. Beautiful. See, there it is again. You become righteous, and you're here on earth. You're alive still. You don't have to wait until you die and you go on to some other existence. You become righteous. You enter God's kingdom, and he bestows the earth. He grants it to whomever he chooses from among his. Inshallah, it's the ultimate victory belongs to the righteous. So the righteous are the victors. SubhanAllah. So 7:129. They said, we were persecuted before you came to us and after you came to us. He said, your Lord will annihilate your enemy and establish you on earth. He will see how you behave. So there's the test. So they're persecuted people, and their belief may seem easy to them. We believe in God, or we would, or they may look at other people. Well, we would never behave like those people if we had the money. But then when God gives them the provisions, that it's a different. He says, we'll see how you behave, and that's what this life is. It's a test. It's testing us, seeing how we behave. So Moses is going to God is going to afflict people to see if the plagues. This is the subtitle, the plagues. So we then afflicted Pharaoh's people with drought and shortage of crops. He may take heed. 7. God, when good omens came their way, they said, we've deserved this. But when a hardship affected them, they blamed Moses and those with him. In fact, their omens are decided only by God, but most of them do not know. There we have it. God's in control of everything, even the things say it's according to God's system. Um, so that way, if like something bad is happening to you, that's telling you right here, it's from you. 7, no matter what kind of sign you show us to dupe us with your magic, we will not leave. Subtitle, the warnings go unheeded. Consequently, we sent upon them the flood, the locusts, the lice, frogs, and the blood. Profound signs. In their arrogance, they were evil people. Whenever a plague of Moses, implore your Lord, you are close to him. If you relieve this plague, we will believe with you, and will send the children of Israel with you. Yet when we relieve the plague for any length of time, they violate their pledge. I mean, it's almost, you can see that you're asking Moses, Lord. There's a detachment from it, not even saying, look, I believe that it's my Lord, the Lord of everything. You're close to him. And even there, it's like an intercession in a sense. Violating the pledge, people, they said if this is relieved, they will believe, they'll let the children of Israel go, but they, of course, they reneged on that one. So the inevitable retribution. 7:136. Consequently, we avenged their actions and we drowned them in the sea. That is because they rejected our signs and were totally heedless thereof. After the miracles, subtitle. We delivered the Israel across the sea. When they passed by the people who were worshiping statues, they said, "O Moses, make us a god for us, like the gods they have." He said, "Indeed, you are ignorant people." So they, the biggest, I mean, passing them through the sea, where they got the hills on both sides of water, just like in the movie 10 Commandments. It's if you don't believe after that, and you're asking Moses to make him a god like the cow or whatever, the calf, or whatever they were used to venerating in it just shows how stubborn. I had mentioned that earlier, that the human being, we're just stubborn and evil. It's most of them. What was it? It was in 7:102. Them disregard their covenant, and we found most of them wicked. So they're exposing themselves. And these people are committing a blasphemy, for what they are doing is disastrous for them. Shall I seek for you other than God to be your God, when he has blessed you more than anyone else in the world? Reminder to the children of Israel: recall that we delivered you from Pharaoh's people, who inflicted the worst persecution upon you, killing your sons, sparing your daughters. That was an exacting trial from your Lord. So we have tried, and imagine that one's a really tough one. I can't imagine having that trial. Killing your sons and sparing your daughters, and I suppose with the understanding of that everyone when you die before the age of 40, with that understanding, if that was day, it would help. But it's such a terrible trust. It's a terrible thing to happen, and it really tests whether you believe that God knows best, that we trust in God. From God is in control of all things, and he knows best. Our world cannot stand the physical presence of God. 7:142. We summoned Moses for 30 nights and completed them by adding 10. Thus the audience of his Lord lasted 40 nights. Moses said to his brother Aaron, stay here with my audience, stay here with my people, maintain righteousness, and do not follow the ways of the corrupters. Well, we have to mention the footnote here. The manner in which these numbers are mentioned is significant. As detailed in Appendix 1, all the numbers mentioned in the Quran add up to 162146, which is a multiple of 19. And so the way I'll read that again, it says, we summoned Moses for 30 nights and completed them. I always remember reading it before when I was a Sunni Muslim, before I got the message. And I was just imagining, is that the way people talked? I don't understand that. Why? It's like, I don't know if you've ever heard the Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln, 80 and something like this. It was just this, why are they talking like that? Well, now we see that the reason God was doing it is because it has mathematical significance. Okay, 7:143. When Moses came at an appointed time, spoke with him, he said, my Lord, let me look and see. He said, you cannot see me. Look at that mountain. If it stays in its place, then you can see me. Then his Lord manifested himself to the mountain, and this caused it to crack. Moses fell unconscious. When he came to, he said, be you glorified, I repent to you, and I am the most convinced believer. Really important cornerstone to one of the how we understand what's happening here on life. Here on earth. What do I mean by that? It's that the whole notion that we cannot stand the presence of God, that our physical structure can't even stand the presence of God, that this earth isolated from God's presence. This verse is giving us an understanding of the very importance of this opportunity to come here and develop our soul so that we can withstand the presence of God. Just this verse here, this mountain will crumble if God manifests himself to it. So you imagine that it's beyond our visual recognition. We can't see it, but we come here, and if you worship, your soul is growing by leaps and bounds. It's almost like it's such an incredible system that you can come here to earth and you can you can convert. It's like a converter. You're converting belief and action, righteousness and correct understanding and trust in God. You're transferring that into soul growth, which is so powerful that it will give you the ability to withstand God. He's supplying you with this system where you can come here on earth, put things right in order, live a righteous life, believe in God alone, believe God, and there's this thing that's happening inside your soul. There's a growth process happening. It's just it's fantastic. Think about it. Okay, so he said, so Moses said after this happened, be you glorified, I repent to you, and I am the most convinced believer. SubhanAllah, for sure. I mean, he talked with God, and then he witnessed that. I would imagine he is the most convinced believer. So 7:144, he said, O Moses, I have chosen you out of all the people with my messages, and Therefore, take what I've given you and be appreciative. There it is again. That we could all hear that. This is a sentence for all of us. Take what God has given you and be appreciative. God talks about us being one of two types. You're either appreciative or unappreciative. You're either in God's domain or you're in Satan's domain. That's it. Take we are given and be appreciative. Psalm 45. I'll finish in just a few. We wrote for him on the tablets all kinds of enlightenments and details of everything. You shall uphold these teachings strongly and exhort your people to uphold are the best teachings. I will point out for you the fate of the wicked. Of course, the Quran has the best teachings too. The Quran had details of everything as well. Of course, it's updated for our time, and it takes into account the history that there. But that's what God's scriptures have. They have the details of it, and they God points out to us the fate of the wicked in it. So divine intervention keeps this is a subtitle. Divine intervention keeps the disbelievers in the dark. I will divert my revelations. I will divert from my revelations those who are arrogant on earth without justification. Consequently, when they see every kind of proof, they will not believe. And when they see the path of guidance, they will not adopt it as their path. But when they see the thing, they will adopt it as their path. This is a consequence of their rejecting our proofs and being totally heedless thereof. That is such an all-encompassing ayah there, verse there. It's first of all, it's telling how God diverts the revelations. Look, observe it. God is keeping you from understanding it. And who is he doing that to? Arrogance. Arrogance is arrogance and our ego. That's what's keeping us from being a believer. And God is saying he diverts. If you have that type of heart, he diverts it from you, and you will not believe. And even if they see the path of guidance, they won't adopt it. That's what I was saying earlier. People are not interested in the truth. They're attracted. That's for the most part. We're proving that we're not interested in the truth. And that's what Satan was saying. And he was saying that I will divert most of them, or I'll attract most of them, or off of the path of God. And it's saying here that they will see the path, and that's the one they want. And the reason is people reject the proofs. It's a big thing to reject God's proofs. And our proofs aren't just the mathematical miracles; it's just even life itself, and all of the signs that are around us that show that there has to be a God, there has to be an intelligence, there is a design, there is a wisdom, and there's a system. It's not arbitrary; it's completely controlled, and those are all signs. And 7147, those who reject our revelations in the meaning of the hereafter, their works are nullified. Are they for what they committed? We let the oppressed people inherit the land east and west, and we blessed it. The blessed commands of your Lord were thus fulfilled for the children for their steadfastness, and we annihilated the work of Pharaoh and everything they harvested. So first, those who reject our revelations and the meaning of the hereafter, nothing. Be the nicest person in the world, and if you reject God's revelations, if you reject what God is saying, then you're rejecting God. That's what he's saying. If you reject his system, you're rejecting him. And another key component is if you don't believe in the hereafter, exposes you. You know, a lot of things expose your disbelief in the hereafter. You don't believe the hereafter. The implications are that there isn't a designer behind everything. There's no point. There's not a point to life. You know, none of this. It's such a blasphemy for us. 7:137. Oh, that's I just said it. Let's see. Let me read again. We let the oppressed land east and west, and we blessed it. The blessed commands of your Lord were thus fulfilled for the children. Reward them for their steadfastness. And we annihilated the works of Pharaoh and his people and everything. So God rewards the steadfast, and there's the retribution again. The messenger came with proofs, and people rejected them, and God annihilated the works of Pharaoh, people, and everything they harvested. Nothing, all annihilated. So the presentation for today. Let's open the station. I'll do it. So I went from verse 785 up till verse 7:137. It's interesting how 785 Shuaib, how cheating and dishonesty are condemned. That God uses the precedents of the messengers and the people, their people, and we see how we become clear on part of our behavior, how we're supposed to behave here, and you know, being completely honest and fair. It seemed to be the particular trait that this community had problem with. One time I did a roof. I did a roof for an Ethiopian, and they were refugees and kind of broken English, but I think we're talking about the price and stuff like that, and they were trying to bring the price down or something, but it's funny what she said to me. She says, "We do tricks. We do tricks." What are you talking about? Back home, we do tricks. And later on, I realized is that they like to do scam, like to cheat people, you know. Shuaib. Anyway. Okay. I just need to know that there's life out there. Is there?
Oh,
Yeah.
Salãmun
Okay. Okay. So
yeah, good reading. Nice.
okay.
Well done.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm
I learned
alive.
a lot.
Okay.
Well
Okay.
done. Let me see. There are many things. Yeah, when the Jews or Hebrews, whatever, children of Israel, they wanted to make a god out of like a statue.
Amazing. Amazing.
It's because their knowledge about God was still primitive. The only thing they knew about God was what they were taught, like by the Egyptians, how that society influenced them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a major. I think this is like a sign we should take seriously, because I believe this is a major obstacle in every person. Their God, their understanding of God is a personal God, like a personal understanding of God. And then their entire faith and religion and whatever is dedicated to their image of God, not to God with a big G, like their God.
You know, that's interesting the way you put that about that they were influenced by their society, and you see that they were the children of Israel. They had in their heritage that Joseph was their last prophet, and they had some understandings. Of course, they had, but look how insidious their secular beliefs were, or their societal beliefs, and that even though they experienced those miracles, those belief rooted in us, that we like they did. They still, after seeing all that, it's so deep rooted in us. When you were saying we need to be very careful, that's what I thought you were going to say, is that they that we really have to look at how corrupted we are, from that.
Yeah, because okay, human knowledge increases. We discover new things, and people like maybe in the 80s, I don't know, that began to think like God is energy, that God
Right.
is protoplasm or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Right.
you just, I don't know if this is the right term, but okay, I don't know what the term is, but you're just repeating. You're just repeating. It is the same nonsense, the same struggle, the same ignorance, but in new terms, new words.
Yep.
It's still the same issue. You can't say God is energy. We don't know what God is. We can only know that guy through the Quran. That God is the merciful. That's the only understanding we have about God. The merciful, the most just, gracious, the forgiver. Those are the real
All the
attributes
good
of
name.
God. Yeah, those are the real attributes.
Yeah.
We can't say, "Oh, God is energy," and we don't know. We have no idea.
Right.
But
Right.
people are at that level. When you ask people, "Who is God?"
Yeah.
Oh, God is energy, and no, that's
Or
no,
his
that's
spirit.
very spiritual nonsense.
Yeah, the undivine.
Yeah, the divine is undivine.
The divine of God is undivine.
Yeah, and I
Same
believe.
as YHWH. It's undivine.
Yeah.
You know
Wait,
that?
I don't know. No, what? Say,
Why?
explain to me. I'm lost.
YHWH. Adonai. Or the Yahweh.
Ah,
Oh,
yeah,
Yahweh.
It's undivine, right? The meaning is undivine. It's too high to define the God.
mm-hmm.
That's why they
Oh,
cannot spell.
Undefined. I see. Undefined.
That's why they cannot mention the name YHWH, the Yahweh, because they cannot spell it. It's too high to spell.
Yeah, they are not allowed to spell God.
Yeah, they're not allowed.
They spell G and then they skip the O.
Yeah.
And then they write D.
It's almost the same with the Japanese in here, Japanese understanding. Sorry if I said that. Japanese religion.
Mm.
They say it's Tan Kano Kinoyonopo. It's mean there's something that I cannot describe.
Oh wow. There's something I cannot
It's
describe.
Japanese there's something that I cannot describe.
Yeah, but that's
in
almost true.
in Japanese language it's Tan Kano Kinoyonopo. So it's almost the same with YHWH. It's almost the same. It's too high to describe it.
Yeah.
So the maybe the interesting one is it's some people before Abraham came, they believe in God, of course, but they cannot describe the God. So they believe in power, but they cannot describe the power. So when they found something like a statue, trees, or whatever is it, you name it, has some power, I think there is no mistake if they claim it's as their God.
Like lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's limit to their knowledge.
Because limitation of their knowledge, right?
Maybe, and God is a forgiver, the most forgiver. So, and God does say that He forgives us for
our sins.
For the stuff we are unaware of.
That's why when Abraham came and then destroyed the statue, the Abraham was looking for the God too, because he has no knowledge about God. Even the sun or the moon, he ever claimed as a God. God, because God will never sunset, will never be set.
Yeah, it's an endless struggle, because I'm willing to say that only God can understand God.
Yeah.
We can never understand God. We can only rely on God. Trust God. God is the most merciful. Okay, God is the most merciful. That's our understanding. We shouldn't chase all this. God is energy, or God is this, or this, or this.
Yeah.
Endless.
That is
It
the most
becomes endless.
interesting one. What about the destiny of community? Sorry if I said the darkness people, because they're not clever as Abraham.
Well, I liked what you're saying about God's attributes is a better accurate definition of what He is. God says He's the most merciful. And here's the thing I was thinking is that mercy may have more substance in reality than what we consider matter. That these virtues that He is, they are more real and have more something than what we even think things are. And also, I was thinking about how the messenger pointed out that Allah is not the name of God. Allah just means the one true God. And so
a direct translation
undescribed,
would mean,
the undescribed.
it would be, a direct translation would be the God. So like a specific, like a definite.
Yeah, a definite, yes.
Yeah. So in English, it would be God with a big letter.
With G.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I usually just write it with all big letters.
Oh, sure. But that's interesting how language conveys it different. Like the God, or it has a definite to it just by saying the God. But in other languages, I don't know how that works in other languages, but the essence of it is that there's only one of them, and it's the one. It's that God.
Yep, and I believe those Hinduism and Buddhism and all those naturalistic quote unquote religions, they are based on chasing physical attributes of God.
Yeah.
I think that's where the pagan religions come from.
Yeah. It's like Allah says that, or God says that the angels are the drivers of the wind. That kind of thing. God has angels doing different things, and I always see them making the mistake of idolizing the angels or the jinn. Maybe they're
So, and it's like if someone is ignorant and doesn't know better, then God will like.
What a pity they are, right?
Yeah.
What a pity they are.
Yeah, what a pity. God is a forgiver, so.
Yeah, because before Abraham came, we can say before Abraham came, they are has no knowledge
Abraham
about religion or something, or about believing on anything.
I think
they just believe in power. The power of the trees, the power of the stone.
Yeah, right. They say,
course.
they say how. Oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, it ever happened to me too. I believe that in something that the unseen has power. But but 15 years ago, I believe that the unseen can harm us, can harm me.
Like what? Like what are you saying? The unseen, like what?
The power of the jinn.
Oh, you're speaking of the jinn. You're right.
The jinn is the unseen, right?
Yeah,
the unseen for several people.
Right.
But God, he describes himself to us by saying, he describes himself to us by saying, I am good, I am kind, I am generous, I appreciative. And so he's defining, he's telling us. And when you think about, okay, we're in this life right now because of whatever, we did in the last life. It's such a comfort to know that this is where the goodness is. This is where the beauty is. This is where the forgiveness is, and the kindness and the love. Yeah. He is love. He is mercy. He is compassion. And we have so few and so little of that here on earth. And his is with no strings attached. He gives. And so to me, that's his essence. That's who he is, and trying to understand that kind of purity, that kind of sacredness and holiness. And he doesn't define himself by I'm the vindicator. I'm going to get you, the retributive bolt of lightning kind of thing. He forgives over and over and over and over again. And for me, that to me is the lifeblood for me, to know that this is the God that I worship, this beautiful, wonderful, generous, kind God, because he could have been anything, and this is who he is, and I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He could have been anything. Yeah, he could have
Could be anything. He could be anything, Dania.
Yeah, he could have chosen any attributes. I mean, he could have had a certain definition of not cruelty, but of retribution, and he didn't choose that. He chose love and kindness and generosity and goodness.
Generosity.
And I mean, and when we see okay, we were there, we knew he was God, and we still doubted because someone came up and said, hey, I could have to do the same thing that you do. And we doubted. He didn't just destroy us or annihilate us. He said, I'm going to give you guys a chance. And then he did. And he asked the mountains, and everybody refused but us. And still after that, he said, okay, I'll put your souls in a suppository. You're going to come on earth. You get freedom of, choice, whether you're going to choose, my way or Satan's way. But you know what? I'm not going to leave you alone. I'm as near to you, closer to you than your jugular vein. I will answer your prayers. I hear you. I'm going to bring messengers and prophets to you so that, when I see that you go a little bit astray, you all have a chance. And I'm going to give you a cheat book. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do to go back home. I'm never going to leave you. It's all in your hands. It's all in your choice. That's a very kind God, and a very loving God. Because he also says, I don't care what your sins are. I don't care what you've done. I will forgive everything. Everything.
Oh, thank you, Dania. Now I understand about the free will is. Thank you, Dania. Thank you, Dania. Thank you, Dania. I got the meaning of the free will now.
Right. So that's how I see God, and that is where my appreciation is, and I understand the laws and the rules, and we have to pray and we have to this and we have to that, but those are just actions for me. With if there's no if it's not God has to be involved for me, truly involved.
But we also have to return the love.
Absolutely. And it is easy to. Who doesn't love somebody who's kind and good and sweet and forgiving? And I mean, and you have to actively work on that relationship. And that's how, I mean, I would tell Jeff so many times, we actually have a God. And it's this wonderful, beautiful thing, this essence that we know nothing. Yeah, I marvel at it, and that to me is the lifeblood for me of what believing in a one God is. That to me is it. I mean, I read the Quran and I do as much as I can, but we also have like the ability. He's given us the ability to listen to study his attributes, to think about them, and to put them in our life, and then to do that for others and to treat others that way, to be compassionate, to be kind, to be loving, to be good.
And the more you practice it, the closer to God you get.
Absolutely, because that's who God is. Absolutely. And that's why there's that saying, the mercy that you show others is the mercy God will show you. And to me, it doesn't mean that, well, he's, keeping score. To me, that means, have you learned nothing from me when I say this is who I am, So be good to people, be kind, be patient, take care of each other. And this is what he asks of us. when we're here, when you understand, be good to each other here, give to each other, be kind to each other, and trust that I'm with you always. And that's to me how I see, how I see God. And yeah, so it is indescribable. I mean, I keep thinking about when Rashad did the talk where he was explaining about, how awesome he is, which I knew, but he said it in a way that really stayed with me. And the idea that all of this is in his right hand and this is what he's creating, and and that he wants good for us, that you ask him for good, he's going to give you good.
Yeah.
Yeah, God is with that ant, I think Rashad said.
Sure.
One more time, Ahmed, what did you say?
God is with that ant.
He's with that ant.
With that ant.
Oh, ant. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
Oh, maybe I pronounced it wrong.
No, you didn't.
Like
You
a
didn't. I didn't. You didn't. I just didn't want to assume that I understood when I really,
God
But
is
just
Mario.
great. He will give you all the attention. You're the most
Art.
important person.
Yeah. I love that. That he can give me undivided attention while he's giving everyone else undivided attention. They ask. I love that.
Yeah,
It's not.
subhanAllah.
It's because we live in. We're taught. We live here on earth, and we're taught there's a limit to everything, and we give that to God too. That there's a limit, and there is no limit, and we really have to understand that there's enough for everybody. There's just enough for everybody.
I'm dying to ask Hario to explain that moment. What was the understanding? What's the essence of that you understood? What new insight did you have?
Yeah, I get the insight that what Dania tried to explain, it's about the free will, the will of love, the will of patience, the will of everything. We choose. You choose to fight or to love each other. But it's different. But it's different context with the fighting command. It's different.
Let's not get into that again.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you say it's different from the fighting commands?
Yeah, like Muhammad get a command from God to fight back.
But then if you put that in context with Muhammad, you think about for 13 years, he took a lot of hassle and a lot of abuse from the Quraysh. And what did God tell him? God told him
to
emigrate. He told him to leave.
To leave, to emigrate. Everything. Yeah, I know that.
He never gave him any command to fight until they were coming with their
too
weapons.
Much. Yeah.
Until
they're going too much.
Then think about it, though. He also gave them a lot of rules. You cannot fight except this way.
You cannot kill on the 10 Commandments, right?
And you can't treat people badly that you capture. So even in all of that, there was a great deal of kindness.
Yeah. That's what I found, Jeff. I found that all the command of God, if we're looking for a God, it's not hard to find a God.
Really, if you're looking for God, look for love, and you'll find God.
That's why I think, okay, that's the definition of the free will. What will do you will get? Or what will, it's your purpose.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying if your God is love, you'll find love, but if your God is hate, you'll
God
find
is
hate.
more than
Yeah.
love, of course.
What is God? What is? I remember this saying where they said, he says, "I am to my servant who he thinks I am." So if you
Where's
think
that?
he's a harsh God, if you
Okay.
think he's a harsh God, he's going to be a harsh God, in your mind.
Yeah. What's on your mind is your God. Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
What
It's
did you ask
related.
me,
Yeah.
Jeff?
But what that might backfire. Like if you believe God is only love, then that's your God, only love. Then
Yeah.
you're a hippie.
Well, you know, here's the thing. Here's the thing where we're blessed. He tells us a lot of his attributes in the
Yeah,
Quran.
yeah.
So there
Yeah.
is,
We should
and
value them all equally.
absolutely, and
So
and
that's what
ponder
God
on
is,
them,
or who God
right? And
is.
and and think about them and ponder on them, and
Mm,
be grateful. My goodness, be grateful, because he could have been anything, and this is who he is, and that, for me, I'm just so grateful for
mm,
that. There's a lot of unkindness and a lot of harshness and a lot of cruelty in this life. It's like a cool drink of water to go to God, because that, he's embracing, he's loving, he's kind.
mm.
And, he says, when you're lonely, I'm your friend.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
with
with
you.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
Ask for me to relieve your stress or your distress. I do. I relieve it from you. I take it from you. So, you know, that's how, my view is of it. And I think that we miss that so much,
Yeah.
because we're talking about the laws and we have to do it this way, and they're doing this, and what about, this, and this is the right way. And we miss the point. It's like we don't see the forest for the trees, and it is about God. Everything is about God. It's about God.
Yeah. Agreed with you, Adenia.
Say that again.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Masha Allah. It's beautiful understanding.
Well, it is what I do understand about it, but
Yeah.
And
Um,
then
mhm. What?
the children of Israel turned that God into a golden calf.
but it also doesn't that also teach, though, part of what I understood from that, it was also, they had the slave mentality. And so, and you can see that when, Moses really had his hands full with them. They only knew
Yeah. There's like
for
mentality. The
most of
only new only party. God is the second part.
it, it
The
takes
only
it
new is
takes
only party. Yeah.
yeah, it takes a while to get that mentality out. One of the reasons, to me, why Moses was told to have them, sacrifice a calf, was to also, give them a visual of, this is not what we worship. We worship God. And when they actually, that's why they asked, are you making fun of us? And so that was a very big visual. No, this is not what we worship. This is not God. Because that's what they were used to. Because that's what the Pharaoh worshipped. Didn't he worship a bull cow or something?
Yeah.
And they were slaves, and so that you know. There's
Yeah.
that idea. There's that idea of, well, they're wealthy, they're powerful, they're higher class, and so it hasn't changed today. People are constantly trying to emulate movie stars and singers, and people look at people with money completely different, like there's some kind of magic dust. all over them.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a view about that slave mentality because their God is only happiness. The happiness is party. That's the mental of slave. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. Normally, nothing's wrong if they made a calf because they're looking for a party because God wants happiness.
Right, and that's
That's the concept, right?
Mhm.
That's a crazy concept.
Well, it's like people who suffer abuse, they have post-traumatic stress disorder or complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So even when the good things come, they're still frightened. They still have all of those things.
Yeah.
And so all you have to do is look at animals. Look at a dog when a dog is abused. Look at how they behave and how frightened they are and how they behave and things. And so it takes a long time to be able to move from that. And you have to have something to hold on to. And this is where God comes in because, even though it's terrible what you're living through right now, when you still understand that there's beauty with God, it helps you. You survive.
Yeah. Wow. What a hard topic tonight.
There are more topics to come.
I mean, it's a hard topic. It's a great topic tonight. Yeah, I love it.
So, verse 88.
At verse 88.
Verse 88.
Okay.
That's like, how do we measure evil people? How can we recognize evil? And that's a good measurement right there.
788, you mean?
Yeah, 788. The arrogant leaders among his people said, "We will evict you, O Shu'aib, together with those who believed with you from our town, unless you revert to our religion."
Okay.
And then Shu'aib says, "Are you going to force us? But yeah, there's no religious freedom. But we can go as far as say ideological, ideology and political and whatever. People try to enforce their ideas on you.
Yeah, of course. So, what's the point?
Yeah, that's a measurement. You can measure people, how they think, how evil they are. And they will discriminate against you because of differences.
Yeah, same as us. Same as us. Same as us. Same as what happened right now.
Yeah.
Well, see, wait, wasn't Jeff saying? Jeff, didn't you say that that is more prevalent or common than?
Dania. You break up, Dania.
I didn't get that.
We didn't
Are
get.
you walking? Are you walking?
We didn't get your message, Dania.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, you were saying that, being wicked is more common and that you were reading in the Quran that you were saying that it's more common and so, this is where I have a really hard time. I have a really hard time with the idea that that's how we're going to start judging people. You're wicked, and so what are the rules for that? You know what? You don't believe what I believe, so therefore you're wicked. I don't know what the rules are
Mm-hmm.
on
Same
that.
is with these verses.
Right. That's why I'm
We
asking
will
Jeff.
evict you, Usuaib, together with those who believe with you from our town, unless you revert
Yeah, we
to our
should judge
religion. He said, "Are you
people.
going to force us?"
Yeah, we judge
Same
people by their
as what
actions.
happened today.
Are you there, Jeff?
We judge
Yes.
people because they didn't follow what do you say? I don't know. It is almost the same.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
what I'm
of course
asking.
we
Okay.
judge. Of course we judge when if
How
we are
how
certain.
Mm.
okay? How does one decide someone
Okay,
is evil
okay,
or
okay,
wicked?
okay. Did, did
By what they do and what they say.
yeah, their actions.
But what
Okay.
did you
Well,
what
what
they
is that?
say?
Okay, but wait a minute. What does that mean? If they say or do something in that moment that makes them wicked or evil forever, or
No, no.
people are
On
in
that time,
people
yeah.
at that moment. Is
Only
that at
on
that
that
moment?
moment. I mean,
Yeah, but then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
learn more about that person, and then you realize, okay, this guy is a wicked person.
Yeah.
You give them
I mean,
chances, you
I'm
test
like,
them.
See, I hear a
yeah,
lot of judgment, and I hear a lot of assumption with that.
Mm.
And this is what I hear, and this is honestly what I hear. I hear that people are listening and watching and say, "Oh, that person's evil. That's no good. That person's wicked," and you don't know, and you don't know anything
Yeah,
about
but
them or what the internal
yeah,
yeah,
world is.
but that's too
that
extreme.
people.
Like you could
Well, no,
first
but
start
I
with
think,
ignorance. Oh, that
yeah,
person
but
is
wait a
ignorant.
minute. I think the other way is extreme. I think the other way. I think that there's something wrong when that's what people look at and that's what they go to. I mean, it's like for me, it's pretty easy. I mean, we all know what evil looks like when somebody kills, when somebody is an abuser, when somebody is all of these terrible things. That's
That's
not the one.
easy.
Well, yeah, that's easy. The one I'm talking about is, well, you don't believe what I believe, so you're wicked.
Yeah.
You don't know what I know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'm right, and so you're wicked, and then that gives me permission to treat you wicked. That gives me
Mm-hmm.
permission to treat you any way I want.
no. And then there's the and then that's
You
the
you
assumption.
don't
It's not.
necessarily have to treat them wicked
Yeah,
badly.
that's right.
For example, if someone worships Jesus, I can tell them, "Well, you're a disbeliever, or you're going to hell." I judge them,
Okay, do you
but
know
that
how
doesn't
many?
mean I'm gonna mistreat them, or curse them. We can
Well,
still
I'm
be
talking
friends.
about. Okay, Ahmed, I'm talking. People don't do that to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely do people treat other people that are strangers the way they treat people, in their circle.
Mm.
They can be harder
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
meaner to the people in their life. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Where does
especially
that
on the internet. So
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, on the internet, yeah. Now, everybody's hiding behind something, and so
yeah.
they can do that. But I'm talking about like your circle, your world, where if there is a disagreement or people are in different places, I think that that's an abused. Yeah, I think that's an abused. That's very abused. I think that people take advantage of it, and I think it gives them excuses to treat other people unkindly.
Yeah, but that exposes that person and that person's evil. That he is a person that judges people and treats them badly.
Right, and so you
It
label that
works
person.
both
Wait, okay, so
ways.
wait, you label that person evil then?
Yeah, it works both
In
ways.
their life, and
Sorry.
You can't
Yeah, the
judge
verse that
without
says,
knowledge.
with their family, they acted arrogantly.
Mm.
right, but isn't that kind of but see that to me is also an extreme. Where unless that person keeps consistently being a certain way.
Well,
You
I think
know,
that's what you were asking, right? If they're consistently treating their own loved ones a certain way, they're not following God's laws then.
who's this, Solomon?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. I think my way to do it is I don't judge unless I'm also willing to forgive.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
So that's why I judge so much because I'm also willing to forgive.
So you found a loophole.
I found the loophole.
You know, but I am serious about this because I've heard this before about well, they're wicked. And I feel like people they just jump on that one.
Yeah.
It's so easy for people to just say, okay, well, now you're evil or you're wicked, and and all of that. And I don't understand. I don't understand that anymore. I just don't. I because it's like, aren't we supposed to try and look for the good in people first? And just because something is said or somebody does something, doesn't I just don't like that label. It doesn't automatically make somebody evil.
Let me read something here. I read it last week. I'll read
But
it
again,
again.
we only judge when we have proof.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then who decides the proof?
No,
If
just
it's
like
a
what the
situation.
Quran does. The Quran. No, you see, here's the thing. I think the mistake on that is to think that behavior is the person. A person, an act can be an evil act. An act can be a wicked act. A person is doing the things that evil people do, and of course, if they continue it, they will, they'll lose their soul. But the thing is that that the biggest. One of the biggest tools of Satan is to say, "Do not judge." And he says, the messenger said, of course you can judge. You can judge.
Yeah, I'm not talking about judging.
No, okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. Of course, I understand about the judgment. That to me is a completely different thing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how does an individual for themselves decide, because what I see so much around me is that people they get a thought or an idea, and if you don't agree with them, boom, that's it. You're wicked, you're evil, and it allows me to be able to treat you a certain way.
Yeah, but
So
you
it's
don't have
not.
to
It's not.
agree with them.
I thought you were talking about judging before too, because you said that how can you label them when they treat their loved ones a certain way? I mean, for that one thing, how can you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying we're not supposed to quote unquote judge. Of course, we all do. What I'm saying is that
Saying it's unfair.
I guess it's like this. People will read that, and I guess if you are that just prone to do that, you're going to take advantage of that, and label people unfairly.
Yeah, like you're saying, you misjudge them. You should judge them, but you should judge them fairly. And you're saying that's not fair because.
Well, there's that word should. There's that word should. And we're dealing with people with different personalities, and there are personalities that, look for these kind of comments in the Quran and then take it to an extreme.
But for example, let's say I'm talking with someone and I judge them to be evil, and then you or someone else comes and say, "Oh, Ahmad, you shouldn't judge that person." Like, why? Like, who are you to tell me why I shouldn't judge that person? It's my business between him and me, and I decided that that person is evil. That's my decision. You don't have to agree with me, but you also don't have the right to tell me I misjudged him unless you have some evidence to prove me otherwise. So, and I'm not gonna listen oh, you misjudged him, we should be loving, forgiving. Like, what? That's like nonsense in my ears, because I already communicated with that guy and I discovered he was evil. And then someone
Well,
comes and tells me I did something wrong. Like, what?
okay.
That's nonsense to me.
Okay, well, see, but that's different. But that's different. I'm not talking about, I'm talking in your everyday life. I am not talking about you're sitting there judging, is that person evil or not, because they believe what I believe or they don't believe what I believe or whatever. You have to see action. You have to see action. You have to see it repeatedly. You have to see it not just with you, but with people around you. You have to see their behavior. It has to be consistent, that kind of thing, and repeated over and over and over again. Or they keep moving the bar. They keep moving the bar, and they keep doing more and more and more things that are terrible. That's different. Because then you're listening, you're watching, you have a lot of information which you can assess that person. I'm talking about, I guess I don't know why it's
to consider that people change, right? So it's not like we're not condemning their future, we're condemning them in the current state, in the current act, in the current second.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. You're condemning you're condemning the act, but not the person. Because it sounds to me like you're condemning the person.
In that state.
Yeah, I can condemn both person and action in that second.
And let me ask this then. By what criteria do you feel you have the right to judge and pass that judgment? Okay, but wait, are you following Quran? Do you look at yourself and make sure that your behavior is
100%, 24 hours every second?
Okay, well, you're a rarity, I gotta tell you.
Can I read this? Is my mic off?
No, we hear you. I'm done.
Okay. At some point, I don't need to interrupt, but I just feel like I read it last week, but it's like we're talking about it right here. It's that conversation about on an Oprah show where the messenger was talking about a lady and her daughter, and the daughter dropped out of high school, got pregnant at 15 and wanted to live with her boyfriend and was drinking and, had all kinds of problems. And just listen. And so that's what the subject matter is here. And just listen to this conversation between this guy, Eric, and Rashad Khalifa, the messenger. So, all right. So they're talking, and Eric continues his argument and mentions some excuse for the girl who got pregnant and dropped out of school. Maybe she was she said, maybe she has a very good reason for dropping out of school, doing what she's doing. And here's what the messenger said. We uphold the highest moral character because God told us to do so. If a girl gets pregnant, first of all, physiologically, she's not ready to get pregnant. It's not good for her. If she drops out of school, it's not good for her. It is a bad example. It affects your behavior when you do not have the highest moral standard. It affects your behavior and it reflects on you. Eric says, maybe this girl's a believer. And he was shocked. Pardoned. He said, pardon? He said, well, maybe this girl's a believer. Because Eric's taking the position of how can you judge this person? And here's what the messenger said. No, she's not a believer. She doesn't know anything. She's drugged. She's an alcoholic. She's 15 years old, pregnant, without marriage. How can she be a believer when she gets pregnant at 15? She drops out of school and something to her mother. Why do you think she's a believer? Because she got pregnant? Eric said, I said, maybe she is. How do you know that she's not? Say that God knows, but we do not know. We pretend that we know because God knows. That's what Eric was saying. Here's what the messenger said. So the girl that gets pregnant and drops out of school at 15 and would rather live with her boyfriend and pregnant and they have a child, this is a criterion for a believer? Is this true? Is this what you are saying? Eric says, what are you saying? And he repeats his question. Eric says, I didn't say that. Maybe she's a believer. And the messenger saying sarcastically, because all the signs are there. All the signs of a believer are there, right? Why do you say all the signs of a believer are there? And Eric said that to him. He said, well, this is your conclusion. No, I didn't draw any conclusions. Don't put words in my mouth, Rashad. I'm just trying to say that what she has in her heart, we don't know. Okay, so here's the response. Well, I think you're a bad influence on us, Eric, and I suggest you go back to Switzerland. That's my suggestion, because your behavior reflects what you're saying, and it hasn't been good. He says, I know certain things you don't know, so if you excuse my expression, we're looking from God's point of view. We're looking from God's point of view, strictly from God's point of view. I don't think that, and so he goes on to say other things, but that's the point of it. That's why I brought it up.
But that's apples and oranges, Jeff. I'm not talking about that. It's very clear it's very clear that this girl who is, dropped out of school, is having premarital sex and got pregnant. It's very clear that this is not God's way. It's very clear. But I am not going to label a 15 or 16-year-old as evil for all time because of this behavior. Because we don't know. She could live to be 100. In the moment, her behavior is wrong. There's no doubt about that. But I'm not talking about that. That's I get that part about the judging. I'm not talking about that. Of course, you're going to look at that. I look at that. I see, the way people are living, and I know it goes against God, and so that's it. But I'm not talking about that. I was talking about your day-to-day. It doesn't matter anymore, but I was talking about your relationships with the people that are in your world, and this idea of I think that sometimes people take it to an extreme when every little thing you're evil, you're wicked, and then when do you stop being wicked? When you are doing what they think you should be doing, or you see what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that kind of judgment. And I'm saying that to me is a personality flaw, and I do think, unfortunately, I think people, they jump on that. It's much easier for them rather than to be kind. Because they want to be
like we're saying do not judge, but we're saying we don't judge in a certain situation, but you can judge in other situations.
I'm just saying every situation is unique. Every situation deserves, a real or an unprejudiced understanding and view. And I don't think it's right that everybody announces it to other people. Well, this person's weird, wicked or evil or whatever, because of this. Because, just because you think that, I don't know this person. I don't want to know that about that person until I can see it for myself. But I see that people, it's really easy for people to judge on the dark side, the wicked, the evil, and they're stingy with their love, their kindness, their forgiveness, their openness. They're even questioning, saying, explain to me why.
But who are these people?
Do that. People don't do that. They have their, they're more judgmental than God.
Yeah, but who are these people?
It doesn't matter who these people are. They're in your life.
It matters.
No,
they have a lot to learn.
They can be your siblings. They can be your parents. They can be your cousins. I'm talking about people in your life.
People who judge.
Who judge?
Talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about the
yeah.
people.
You're talking about people who judge others without knowledge and who are very harsh and unloving.
Okay, I don't know
With
what
evil intention.
no, I'm
Or
just
who
giving.
find pleasure in it.
No, I'm not just talking about that. Okay, yeah, yeah. I'm talking to me, it's a reality. I have seen this almost all of my life. I have seen this almost all of my life where people judge other people and really can ruin their lives. And it's unfair because
Yeah.
people believe, people gossip, people, and that's just the reality.
Right. But
It's
what's
just
the
the reality.
justification for like? I'm trying to understand like what's the justification for them treating their loved ones that certain way that they shouldn't
I
be
don't
judged.
know. People do things for a lot of reasons. They want to be right. They want to win. They want to be in control. They want to, they want to appear better than. They just don't like that person. There are a lot of reasons why
No,
people do what they do.
I meant like you're saying like okay, in that particular situation, like we should probably not judge this person. And I'm saying, like, what would be the reasoning for not doing that? Like, why do you suspend your judgment in that situation when they're treating their loved ones a certain way behind closed doors?
Wait, why do I suspect what?
Why do you suspend your judgment in that scenario?
Okay, I don't understand what that means. Why do I suspend my judgment in what scenario?
Where you see
Withhold.
somebody treating their someone close to them, treating them poorly.
Well, number one, you don't know both sides of the story. You don't know all of it. You only know what you see. So you're not in the position to judge because you have no idea. And this I know for a fact. Most people have no idea what's really going on. They only assume. And I
Well,
think
but
we have
you're saying you can judge them until you know both sides of the story.
I'm saying
But
what?
wait till you know both sides of the story.
Okay. I'm lost. I'm lost. I don't know
Can you
what.
judge after you know both sides of the story? I mean,
Well,
but you can judge
yeah,
them
I
if they
guess.
treat strangers that way.
Can you judge after you know both sides of the story? It's kind of rare that most people know both sides of the story. But I'm assuming that, yeah, if you know both sides of the story, then yeah, you can make an assessment. Absolutely. If you truly know both sides of the story.
Okay.
Truly.
Okay. So I think we've got that resolved.
Okay, what does that mean? We got what resolved?
Problem
No,
solved.
because I thought you were saying that first. You were saying that you cannot judge if there you can judge well the way it was coming off to me. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but it sounded like you were saying that you cannot make a judgment when they're treating. You can make a judgment apparently if they're doing it to other people around them, but not if they're doing it to people who are close to them. If they're doing it to people who are close to them, then you got to know both sides of the story before you make that judgment call. But before it sounded like you were saying you can only judge them if they're doing that to people outside, not in their close circle.
Here's what I think. I think judgment is a huge, huge responsibility. Huge responsibility. And I think it is taken far too lightly. And I think too many people are sitting on their throne thinking that they're the ones who have the right to judge.
Right.
I think
not everyone is like like has these complex reasonings about judging. But the thing is, like, if you simply look at it from the Quran's perspective, and you talk about judging, what is it? I mean, what is judging? Well, judging is making the difference, making the distinction between right and wrong and good and bad. If you're treating someone poorly, whether it's someone very close to you or someone's a total stranger, you're treating that person poorly. And at that point, your intention doesn't matter. What matters is your action. If you're doing something right, and then your intention matters. Well, for example, you give to charity. Well, why are you giving to charity? Maybe you want to appear righteous. Maybe you want to impress people. Maybe you're doing it for show off, or you're doing it really to please God. So intention matters, right? But let's say there's a person, he goes around slapping people left and right. Well, we can't judge because we don't know what his intention is. Maybe he wants to these people to get some benefit out of it or something. No, it doesn't matter because his actions are wrong. So his intention doesn't matter. His reasoning doesn't matter. What he's doing, the action is wrong. And you judge based on that action.
But you know what, Solomon? It's a lot more.
The thing is,
it's a lot more complex. It's a lot more complex. It's not that black and white. It's much more complex than that. And I can tell you just from my own experience, and I've lived a lot longer than you. I can tell you from my own experience.
How do you live a lot longer than me? I'm just kidding. Just go ahead.
Because I have a son as old as you. Because I have a son as old as you. So.
Okay.
For me, what I have seen, and I've been on both sides. I have seen what a judgment can do to a person. I've seen that that there's so much damage. My point is this: I think most people don't really use. I think they do a surface kind of judging, and they're not really, I don't think it's done with the intention that God has made the intention, I think that people read a couple of lines in the Quran and think, well, that's the answer right there. Well, see, it says it right there, so we can do it. And I think that you have to take the whole Quran in its wholness. Because
then let's talk about it from the Quran's perspective.
Well, wait a minute, because then you when you take it in its wholeness, you see how Allah says, walk away or don't judge or don't be quick to
say that.
I just let me finish. You keep interrupting. Let me finish it.
Sorry.
What I'm saying is that when you take, and you're right, he doesn't say don't judge. What he does though say is to be cautious, to be careful, to be to always look for the good first, and not just once or twice, but to give it time. To walk away, those kind of things. I mean, I don't understand why those are ignored so much as, well, it says right here we're supposed to judge. I don't get that.
Okay. Well, the part that you said about being cautious is correct. You have to be equitable. You have to be 100% sure. You have to judge based on Quran, right? But and that's fine. I mean, because you God says you have to judge equitably, so that's that. But I didn't understand the walk away and what was the other one?
Well, where we have to, where he said, you have to give it time, you have to be patient, you have to, or he says, if they say this or that, or they do this or that, walk away, just leave it, walk away, that kind of thing. And this had a lot to do for me with, I think about, the prophet and the 13 years before he left Mecca, what he had to endure. And not once did I ever read where, God told him to behave the way they do or give back to them what they're doing. That kind of thing. And I think that we're really quick, here, I guess the problem for me is that when I hear that kind of stuff coming out of people, I begin then to look at them and think, well, you're being a hypocrite. Well, look at how you're behaving. What about if you just look at your behavior, so, and that then taints it for me, especially when listen, I grew up with somebody who had everybody fooled. Everybody. I mean, everybody. But I knew because I saw it, I witnessed it, I experienced it. I knew who this
Because
person
you
really
were close to
was.
that person, right?
Exactly. That's my point.
So
That is
that's
exactly
what
my
we're.
point.
But it sounds like you're saying the opposite. You're saying that if they're doing it to, if it's justified because this person's only doing it. See, in that
Okay,
example, that person isn't
here's what
doing
I'm
it to other
saying,
people. He's only doing it to the close people he's most
Solomon.
comfortable with,
Solomon. Here's what I'm
right?
saying. That person then can go out because they've created this facade. That person can go out and say things about another person, the one that they're abusing, or all of that in private. And the
Mm-hmm.
other people say, "Well, no, you. I mean, this you got to believe this person because look at how wonderful they are."
Yeah, but
And they
that's wrong because
and they
they don't have any
complete.
evidence.
Well, they have evidence because of the way that person treats them.
Yeah, but that's not an
Okay.
evidence, right?
Well, to
I mean,
them, okay,
but for
that's
us, it isn't, right? For us, we're talking about
I
us.
don't know if that's true. No, I don't know if that's true. When you say for us, I don't know if
I'm
that's
saying
true,
for
Solomon.
our submitters, they
I
can't
don't know
judge
if
based
that's
on
true just
hearsay.
because
They have to see
that,
it, right?
yeah, just because you're a submitter doesn't mean that you don't have those issues, doesn't mean that it
No,
doesn't.
I'm saying for a submitter, somebody can be very righteous and they say, oh, such and such is treating me this way, and you can't make a judgment call just by hearing that. Of course, you'll have to witness it yourself, right? But
Okay,
you're saying that person's has fooled everyone, so he goes and tells these people, and they judge them based on how nice they are to them. And so, but I'm saying for a submitter, that's not a criteria to judge someone on based on hearsay. You have to see, right?
okay. I mean, I agree with you on that. I don't think it's done enough, but I agree with you on that. I mean,
Right.
that's all I
Yeah,
was saying. That's all I was
yeah.
saying is that I just think that I find it interesting that people will jump on that. Well, we have a right to judge. And then it's like, really, well, where are the limits here? I mean, exactly where are the limits here? What? Somebody says something, boom, that's it. We're judging you. And now you're categorized into this group.
Mm-hmm.
And because why? Because I've heard it and I've seen it. And people change, they evolve, they learn.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a hard time with that. So when Jeff was reading about this young girl who was pregnant and wanting to drop out of school and live with her boyfriend, of course nobody thinks that that's okay. Even the people who believe in Jesus as God don't think that's okay. I mean, that's kind of an obvious thing.
But her
Yeah, I
crimes are
mean
nothing
the example
compared.
is kind of amazing because he's saying maybe she's a believer. I mean, he's not saying maybe she's a
Well,
submitter.
what I
He's saying,
understood by that was, well, wait a minute, she may become a believer. Not
no,
now.
he said
She's not
maybe
one
she is a
now.
believer, which is
Well,
different
yeah.
from the maybe she will become a believer.
Well, I understood what he was saying. I understood what he was saying. The way I understood it when he was talking is that, listen, when you get into these, into heated discussions, sometimes it comes out in a way that you didn't really intend. But I understood what he was saying. We don't know. I mean, she's a young girl. She could become a believer, so, God says that, I forgive everything. Once you, become a believer, I forgive, your past. I forgive what you've done, and then it allows people to move forward and not be burdened with the guilt,
Can I say
Yeah, but
something?
the thing, I think for the sake of clarity, you know, you judge them based on now. What they can do in the future is different. Right now they're being bad, and can they be
Okay.
better? Can they do good? Yes, they can.
All right.
But what are
Okay,
they
but let
doing
me
now?
ask you
What they're
this.
doing now, is it good or bad? I mean,
Okay, but let me
judgment.
ask you this, Solomon. Then let me ask you
I
this.
mean,
Okay,
we're
well,
not putting we're for
let's
us,
stay with
for
that.
me at
Let's stay
least.
with that.
No, just
Let's
one
stay
second.
with that 15-year-old girl. Let's stay
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that 15-year-old girl.
yeah.
Okay, if she is treated badly because of the choices and decisions she makes, then how is she going to change unless there's someone who treats her. Let's say that she, for whatever reason, there's a submitter in her life. Okay. And that person doesn't judge her, treats her well, and is able to speak with her and talk with her. Because if you treat people badly, they shut down.
Can I
I
say
don't think
something?
we should treat people badly,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we should
You
treat them
judge-
based on
Okay.
what they're doing.
So what does that
So-
mean? You say
What does
when
it
you
mean?
treat, when you say we
I'm
don't
trying to clarify my thought. So I'm saying when you don't first of all, you don't treat people poorly if they've made poor choices in their own lives, right? That's not an excuse to treat someone badly. But if you're talking about judging them based on their poor choices, yes, you do judge them based on their choices. They've made poor choices. That's your judgment about them.
okay,
They are
and
not following God's commandments. They're making these choices in life, so obviously they're not following God's commandments. Now, would you treat that person poorly or would you treat that person nicely? I would say you treat that person nicely with respect. God willing, maybe they can change, but it doesn't mean that you justify what they have been doing all along, or you know, and that kind of stuff. But you treat
who's
them
saying
kindly. Yeah,
that?
you don't shun them like you know, unless they're fighting you because of religion. That's different, right?
Yeah, but
So you
who's
leave the
saying?
door for submission open for them. You treat them kindly, and you treat them as someone who can become a believer. But I don't even think that was the context of the debate that they were having in the
I
audio.
know. I know, but you know, I know that. What I'm saying is this, okay? I guess personally for me, if you're going to, you know, have the, you know, the self-righteousness and you feel like you know, that gives you the ability to judge, then I in turn am going to judge you more harshly because I'm going to be watching your behavior. And I'm going to be saying to myself, well, if you feel that you are in a position to judge, then you have to be ready to be judged because you are setting setting yourself up. You are setting yourself up.
I don't think you understood judgment from my perspective.
I do
Because
understand judgment.
I simply said
I actually do understand judgment.
Okay, well, I simply said judgment. Judgment means that doesn't give you an excuse to treat someone poorly. Correct?
Yes, I understand. Yeah,
So-
Solomon, you missed my whole point. My whole point was, you know, in theory,
No,
what
you
you're
said
saying
if you judge that way, get ready to be judged.
No, let me finish. Okay,
Oh,
see,
go
you
on.
have to let me finish. What I'm saying is how this started was not what I had said. It is much more, it's not black and white. It's much more complex than that. And people judge for a lot of different, and it isn't as, at least in my experience, I've never experienced, except a couple of times, I've never experienced, you know, people that are that fair. Most of the time, you know, people, they, you know, they bring themselves to it. And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying I find it all started like this. I said, I think people find it easy to jump on the negative or to jump on the judgment thing instead of being more open, instead of being a little bit more forgiving, instead of being a little bit more patient with each other. That's what I was saying.
Okay.
You know, I'm
People should
not,
be
you know,
patient.
listen, I have enough in my life. I have enough in my life to where I understand about people's behavior and my children. And, you know, I don't agree with the life choices that they've made. I don't, you know, and I cannot tell you how many times I've been told you've got to be patient. You know, this is the way it is, blah, 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 you know, and for me, you know, I was much harsher, you know, and I've had to, you know, kind of bend that a little bit and just try and, you know, just be hopeful and patient and whatever. So, I understand, yeah, I understand, people's actions, and by their actions, it's easy to judge them, but it's not that black and white. At least it isn't for me. It's just not for me.
Yeah, it might not be. I mean, it depends on the situation.
I think I keep hearing it's this idea that if it's like if you say that person is doing something evil, or that was evil you did, or that you're making this wholesale assessment of somebody. It's like, okay, now I know. No, I just want to say it though.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if you make an assessment of somebody, that assessment is the stamp of where you're going. It's I'm declaring the fate of you, and I personally think that's an erroneous assumption. That you can like, for example, the homosexuality one's it's a very large in your face example, and the messenger said you're not doing them any favors by giving them their rights. And so here you're being kind to them. Well, give them their rights. They should have the right to marry whoever they want, that kind of a thing. And well, the messenger said you're not doing them any favors by doing that. They got much bigger problems than that. So it's a judgment.
Right, but see, that to me isn't even a black and white thing, because what I kind of understood about homosexuality, what I kind of understood about that too was there's if you notice it was about them approaching, I mean, there are people that are homosexual that have never acted on it, because I see it as a test, their own tests or whatever. And so, even if a person is, has those tendencies, if they've never acted on it, that's a completely different thing than somebody who just dives right in and now becomes in your face kind of thing. So, I mean, again, I think that there's different degrees with that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Do you have to go to being wicked? Do you got to go to being evil? Can't you just say that behavior is, can't you just say that behavior is wrong? It is not liked by God, and leave it at that instead of, passing
that's by
that
definition
judgment?
what evil means.
What?
That's something that's not liked by
That
God.
is, let me tell you something. I think that is,
right? So
I think that is a terrible thing to label people with at the whim of a drop of a hat. I think it's a terrible thing. I know what I'm talking about.
I'm not saying you label people, but I'm saying, isn't that evil? Like evil, you do something evil
No, wait
that's
a
not
minute.
from God.
Wait a minute. Well, wait a minute. Okay. So basically, what you're saying is that every act you do is either good or evil. There's nothing in between.
The reality of it, like you
I don't know
lie.
if that's the reality. I don't know if that's the reality.
Let's say if you lie, that's evil.
Okay.
Right? If you cheat, that's evil. If you are honest, that's godly. But I mean, if you,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just not black and white. It's just not black.
If you're committing homosexuality, that's evil.
Okay,
right?
if you're
disobeying
committing,
God's laws,
the word is committing. The word is committing.
But that doesn't mean that, like Jeff said, that doesn't mean that you're just categorizing that person as altogether
that's
evil.
Not true. But see, that's not true.
He may have mixed.
That's not true, Solomon.
Good deeds.
That's not
he
true.
May have mixed
that's
good
not
deeds
true.
with bad deeds.
No,
right?
that's not. But that's not
repent.
true. That isn't true. I have seen people who judge other people, and that stays with them. And that other
we're not those people here.
Yeah,
So
I don't understand why we're talking about them.
Okay. I think it's wrong, and I think it's naive to say that we're not like that. That's not true.
I have a question.
Well, no, I think it sounds like we're having a debate about something that we're disagreeing on. And if you're talking about people who are not even in this group, then it just doesn't sound like
take them.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about. Okay. All right.
But I have a question. Like, let's say I'm an atheist, and my work, I work. I'm a judge, working for the court, and I judge people on a daily basis. Do you have a problem with that?
Wait a minute. You're an atheist and you're a judge. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm an atheist, and my work is being a judge in a court, and I judge people every day. Do you have a problem with that? Is that problematic?
Well, from what
I'm neutralizing the entire debate.
Right. From what I'm understanding, is that
topic?
No, it's same topic, but remove the religious stuff.
If you're talking about,
it's a yes or no.
Okay, if you're talking, wait a minute. If you're talking about being a judge,
do you respect my profession?
Right. If you're talking about being a judge and that's what you do for a living, then you have a certain criteria. It is all by the law. It's all by the law. That's a different thing.
Okay.
That's a different thing.
So is it a yes or a no?
Okay. The messenger brought that up. Actually,
wait, what? I don't understand. What's the yes or no? What are you asking?
Is it okay, or do you have a problem with me judging people 24/7 as a judge in the court, as an atheist?
Well, do I personally? You mean?
I have a problem with you being an atheist.
Especially on the Quran.
Yes or it's a yes or no
the atheist one.
It's weird.
It's yes or no.
What are you doing here?
Okay, tell me your God.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. There's no yes or no. It's not a yes or no answer.
It is a yes or no.
No, it isn't, sir. Here's the thing. His job is being a judge, and he supposedly does it by law. Now, in the big picture and in the most idealistic fashion, in the most idealistic fashion, we would hope that they're impartial, but that's not the reality.
Yeah, but
that isn't the reality.
A judge is impartial.
No, they're not.
Okay, so
you have a different set of rules.
Okay.
You have a different set of rules for. No, you have a different set of rules. Ahmed, you have it here. Ahmed, here you have a different set of rules for people of color and the rich white people.
Okay.
There's a different set of rules.
I'm a black white man, atheist.
How can you be a black white man?
And I'm an alien, so I don't care. I'm a human alien as well, so no problem. I'm a female and a male.
I'm a great person.
I'm genderless. Get all your excuses out and just answer yes or no.
Wait a minute. I'm offended by that. They're not excuses.
Don't be offended.
No. Don't tell me I'm making excuses. I'm not.
But
I'm offended when you say that.
You're saying you're not making excuses, but you just made an excuse. You
what kind of excuse?
You could be biased. Where did that come from?
The
circumstance is very simple. I'm an atheist judge, and my job is to judge people in the court.
And this is what
do you have a problem with that? Yes or no?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, I do. And I gave you the reasons why ahead of time. Because most of the time people bring their personal bias into it, and there are different set of rules for people of color. So yeah, it's not, idealistically, in a perfect world, that it would be judged unbiasedly. But that's not reality.
Okay.
It's just not.
Okay, so you're saying if the judge is not biased, you don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
If the judge is not biased, no, I guess I don't. I guess if he's not biased, but how are we going to know that? Except by his.
Okay. To me, the problem is solved.
Except by his record, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. By his record, the record shows.
Right, exactly. The record shows, and most of the time, the record shows that most people are biased.
Yeah, most people, but not that specific judge, right?
Well, you mean the one you? Wait, the one you created? Okay, the one you created? Okay, no, Ahmed, the one you created, no, he's not biased. He's perfect. Okay. So no, I wouldn't have I would not have a problem with your judge who is not biased, who is perfect. I would not.
Except
With
he's
you-
an
with-
atheist.
Yeah.
Except he's an atheist, but that's not.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a
But-
believer and an atheist.
the old this whole thing was about calling somebody evil and what's evil, and it's like you got and that was the whole point I was saying in those verses, is that the bar is really low for what evil is. And just let me read these just 3 verses here. Who's more evil than those who boycott God's masjids? That's not what society thinks is evil. Oh, you're not going to the masjid. God's saying who's more evil than that? Let's look at another one. Who are more evil than those who fabricate lies about God? Well, that's happening all the time, but we don't consider them the evil ones. Here's another one. Who are more evil than those who are reminded of their Lord's proofs, then disregard them without realizing what they are doing? I mean, that is like everywhere around you. God's saying, who are more evil than that? And so the point is that the bar is extremely low for what evil is, and to recognize it, to go around not recognizing what the Quran says something is also like putting blinders on. It's like God is,
you know what? That's unfair, Jeff. I am not saying that. I'm not saying that at all.
I'm not, honestly, I don't want to attack you. I was just adding this to the conversation.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
you know,
you.
But see, that's not what I'm talking about. I am not talking about that. I need for you to hear me. I am not talking about that. I was saying based on people judging people and calling people evil all the time. That's what I was talking about. I was not talking about people who don't go to the masjid. I'm not talking about people who refuse to see God's design. I'm not talking about any of that. That, goes without saying. I mean, no, it doesn't go without saying. You should say it, but that has nothing to do with what I was saying. I understand bar is low. It's a lot lower than we think, or that we used to think, but it still is not about my issue about how for each other evil and wicked. That's my issue.
Okay, God willing, I think, inshallah, you'll find your answer.
Well, I didn't have a real question though. I was just telling you my opinion, my thoughts.
Okay,
I'm just saying.
Should I end the broadcast here? Would that? It doesn't
Sure,
seem like we're working on the Quran study. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was Quranic.
No, I mean, no, we didn't. What, in other words, it was just mostly dialogue with the story of Moses, and we pretty much went into open discussion without doing much review of the Quran.
Unless we want to come back to this study, I mean, then we can continue the broadcast, because some people, don't don't have the app, and they might be listening to the broadcast,
Oh, sure.
Oh, so, okay, wait, okay. Let me understand something. So, any discussion that's not considered Quranic at all? I didn't know that.
No.
We kind of went off to a different tangent where it was kind of just more like, sounded to me like just a very general discussion, not like part of.
I thought that. I'm sorry, I thought it was part of it, because we were talking about how to define wickedness and behavior, and I mean, I don't know.
To a certain degree, yeah, but I think it just went into a lot more detail than that.
What?
It's still on the topic.
Isn't that the purpose? I guess I don't get it. Isn't that the purpose?
Okay, here's the thing. So we went. What I'm saying is that that. Are we still working on that? Maybe it should have been a question. Are we still?
Are we still working on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, you were bringing up Quranic stuff. You were bringing up what Rashad said. You were, I mean, I thought it. Honestly.
Okay. Nobody's pointing the finger. Nobody's pointing. I'm just saying, are we still? Here's the thing: we're just wondering if we're still on it or not. That's all, because we do go into open discussion
Yeah,
sometimes.
I mean, I do find like when we spend, honestly, like there should be I'm all in favor of free discussion, and we all are, of course, like we can talk about whatever. But I think that's kind of like a question that I want to put for everyone. It's like there might be certain scenarios where we do run into situations where, let's say, something becomes a topic, and I'm not saying it for this particular topic only. I'm just in general there, like maybe we should have maybe some sort of a general agreement on how we handle situations when, let's say, a topic comes up and then we all want to talk about it and it's great, and we're all interested in it, and then let's say we talk about it for half an hour and we're still going on, and people are bringing other things, and then we're presenting like things about it and valuable insight into the situation, and then it's like, okay, well, how long are we going to like continue this discussion, like also in the interest of other people's time, and there could be other things that you might want to discuss, and it's like, so there should be like some sort of a guideline. Okay, like we've talked about this for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, like we should kind of agree to just like move on for the interest of time, for the interest of other people's time and their interest too, because let's say two people might be very interested, or one person might be very interested and highly passionate about a certain thing, and then the rest of them probably are not, and I think that then that also becomes about being respectful of what they want to.
Okay. Well, I apologize. I honestly thought it was still on topic.
No, it is. It's still, we're suggesting a possible format. What like that? I've seen where there's been moderator and where somebody says, okay, well, why don't we continue that conversation in the open discussion section, but let's stay on discussing the Quranic verses for this period of time, and then we'll go back to that. I've seen that done in Quran studies before too. But
I think that's kind of like what we decided in the beginning, right? We said we will continue on the person will read for about 45 minutes. Then we will continue to talk about the verses, and then for the last half hour or so, I believe, which is what it leaves us, we're like, okay, then we can discuss open discussion. So like the study would continue and that's why, like, if you look at the earlier broadcasts, the study would continue for like an hour and a half, good hour and a half, and after that, when it was like open discussion, people would still talk about some off-topic stuff, and then towards like the last half hour, we would just stop the broadcast, and then it would just be like an open discussion.
Okay, I thought honestly I did think this was on topic. I did, so I'm sorry.
Well, right. I mean, like what I would say, like a good guide for us when we talk about on topic is like, whatever we're saying, do we have like concrete verses from the Quran to back up what we're saying? And there might be times when we don't. There might be times, okay, based on my experience in life, these are a set of guidelines that I follow, and I'm just talking about that, But it's different when we're talking about God's system, and we're talking about specific verses from the Quran, or discussing
right. Well,
detail about.
Right, and I don't have like Jeff's got like 3 or 4 computers. I don't have that, so I, it's easy for him to talk and then type and look up things, and it's not easy for me to do that. I don't have that, and I don't have.
We're not talking about you.
I don't. But I'm saying for me. I'm just saying for me, Solomon. I'm saying for me. I didn't know this topic was going to come up, and so I didn't have anything, prepared as far as the Quranic stuff. Okay. But I knew that Jeff would be looking stuff up, So,
okay.
Because he's got all those computers.
That's fair to you. Then we should probably bring it up when you're ready.
Bring what up when I'm ready?
I mean, like when you have verses to debate with, like or things to debate with.
Yeah, I don't know. This just, to me, this happened organically. It just happened
Yeah,
you know,
it
just
did.
through the
But
conversation.
It
yeah,
did.
let's
No,
for
it
the rest
did.
of us.
It did.
Yeah, for the rest of us, like just let's think about the rest of us.
Yeah,
Okay.
this happens all the time. This
Wait,
isn't just today.
do you guys all have computers that you're next to and typing up and
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah?
yes, I have.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
have
See,
my
I
phone in
don't.
one hand and I have my computer in the other hand.
Oh, see, okay. I don't do.
And I
I
have
don't
one
do that.
computer behind me too, in
Oh,
case I need
that's how
to
you
use
guys.
Windows.
That's how you guys. Oh, that's how you guys get the. Well, in the Quran it says this, in ayah this, and surah this, and oh, okay. Because you guys are looking it up. You're cheating.
No,
I thought it was all by.
you can
I thought
use
it
your
was by
phone.
memory.
It's study.
You can
It's
use your
studies.
phone and search.
Oh yeah, well, you know, I just got the phone thing fixed
Triggered.
yeah, last night, right? Wasn't it, Jeff? Yeah, last night. So yeah, I guess I'm
Yeah, I mean, you
scared to
don't
sit
have
by
to
the.
have the actual verses, you know, like with you, but you can still make reference to it, like, you know, or ask someone like, "Hey, don't you think there's a verse that says that?" And somebody else could help you out too. I mean,
Well, now I know that everybody's sitting with their computers. I'll just say, okay, you guys are sitting with your computers. Somebody look it up.
yeah, exactly.
I
Okay.
wanted to mention a
You,
verse.
you, but it's still on the topic because we're talking about God and talking about the judging
See, that's what
from
I thought. But they said,
17
Yeah,
to
We should
8.
say
We saw
yeah,
that
that.
but
we still
maybe
have
it
God
went like
judging.
1 hour too long, maybe, right?
No,
Yeah,
well,
you know, you guys
That's
know
the
I fell
Study can be
asleep.
long, or
It
maybe
was.
it takes rest of our
You guys put
lives.
me to sleep.
no, there's a general idea that we have that we are collectively going through the Quran and we're observing these verses, and we want to make sure that people have addressed their questions, or maybe a verse needs to
Mm-hmm.
be discussed, because we're moving on to next verses, and so
Yeah.
it's just I mean, it's a Quran study, and it's, you know, in-depth discussions later, but we're just saying, and this is not just today, this has happened a lot of times, it can happen all the time. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying that as a reminder that I don't know, I was just wondering if we wanted to get back to looking at any more of these verses, because sometimes you have to be reminded and you go back and say, oh yeah, I was going to ask this one on this question, that was that. So
Right.
but yeah, there's just we a little more structure, perhaps, that's all.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it was difficult to like find the right answer, because
yeah,
you say one thing, and then we try to explain it, and then you say, no, I don't mean that, I mean something else, and then we try to explain that, and then
yeah,
you say, I mean something else again, and then we try to explain that. So it would
yeah.
be great if you could come up with like 10
that's
concrete
that's the
examples.
purpose of the study, I think.
And yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's the
Oh,
purpose of
but
it.
I would appreciate like 10 good examples, like concrete, of what you
Hario.
mean, of what you exactly mean, Daniel.
Right. Yeah,
It would
exactly.
be
When
really
you don't
helpful.
have, when it's too general, you know, it's hard for us to even know what the other person's saying, because you don't have an example, right? And if you have a specific example, like the example that Jeff was talking about, then you can dissect that scenario based on Quran, and you can explain it. But if you don't even have a situation, and it's so general that nobody can even understand what it's about, like, you know, it's just going to become a never-ending loop.
Okay, so but does anybody have any questions? Do we want to talk about any other verses? Yes. No, and okay, I'm sorry to imply that we weren't doing Quran study. These are important issues. I'm not saying that. But I guess I was feeling a need to address whether we've looked at any of these verses, and if we're done, that's fine. We can. I just thought we should close the.
I want to know if anybody has any comments about the verses we read.
Okay.
Anybody, you know, take maybe we can maybe take a minute or so and go through the verses again. We read from 785 to 137, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of verses. So maybe we might have missed something, perhaps, and we can talk about them.
Break your fast, Ahmed.
Oh yeah.
Forget.
Good reminder. My mother made me this huge hamburger.
Wow.
Yeah, Jeff, you know that the ayah that you had brought it up, where the magicians immediately, bowed down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I you were getting to something, and I think you just kind of skimmed over it because you were talking about thinking about them doing that, how quickly they just recognized that there was a God,
Yeah. They,
based on their experience.
yeah. I mean, compare their behavior with the children of Israel that just walked through the sea that was opened up.
Ah,
I mean,
yeah,
they saw this serpent eat their serpents, or however that happened, eat their magical spell, and or devour their magical spells, and that took them to a place where they were willing to, they said, whatever God does, it's God's decision. That's the Lord. It's all His will. Basically, they submitted. It felt like a complete submission instantly to me.
it was, yeah. And that's a good comparison, their behavior to the children of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question regarding 794. It says blessings in disguise. How do you guys see this verse
Read the
in
verse.
reference in reference to like, for example, the discussion, like the reference to the video where the messenger of the covenant talked about in the kingdom of chaos. So the verse says, whenever we sent a, a prophet to any community, we afflicted its people with hardship and adversity that they may implore. Then we substituted peace and prosperity in place of that hardship, but alas, they turned heedless and said, it was our parents who experienced that hardship before prosperity. Consequently, we punished them suddenly when they least expected it. And so, like, I was looking at, King of Chaos, when the Messenger of the Covenant talked about blessings in disguise, and he was referring to, like, let's say, you want a certain job and you don't get it, and then, but then in the long term, then get something else, and then you look back, you get a better job or something, and then you look back and see it was a blessing in disguise because it looked on the surface like it was bad, but it was actually good. And if you had gotten that job, maybe you wouldn't have, it wouldn't have been good for you. And I saw that blessings being as such, but this one's I see is slightly different because it's talking about people going through hardship and adversity as a blessing so they can implore God. um, I don't think I've seen that before.
That's interesting, yeah, because you're putting it in the context of the four versions of retribution. One being blessings in disguise, one being a pinch, a reminder, one being the final retribution, and one being what's the other one?
Retributive disaster.
Educational is the pinch. Retribution is the last one.
Admission test. You have the admission test.
Admission test. That was the other one.
Yeah.
So you're thinking it in that way. So yeah, interesting. Whenever we afflicted its people with adversity and hardship.
But wouldn't that be literally a blessing in disguise?
Yeah, it would, because it's
inviting. Because he's inviting them to implore him, to ask him, and isn't that the blessing?
Well, the blessing is that they end up imploring him, yeah, and when you implore, he fixes your problem, right. And then you get rid of your idol worship,
right?
And then you lose your.
Yeah, he wants you to implore, but to me, that sentence is literally the blessing in disguise compared to when you guys say about the four different tests. One is the blessing in disguise, and isn't the blessing in disguise that because of the hardship, you go to your God and you ask him to help relieve you.
Yeah, the subtlety that Solomon was referring to is that, for example, say you lost a job and you don't realize that it was bad for you, but you don't realize that job was going to be bad for you, and just right around the corner, God gives you something far better, that kind of a thing. Or
right.
Say
what happens when you get something far better? If you're a person who thinks, then suddenly you're filled with gratitude to God, and you thank God because you realize, oh yeah, his plan is better. He knows and I don't. And you're grateful, and you pray to him. And so it's like, all reminders that you keep going to God.
Right. I think so.
I think 7101 is also pretty interesting. It says, we narrate to you the history of those communities. Their messengers went to them with clear proofs, but they were not to believe in what they had rejected before. God thus seals the hearts of the disbelievers.
How far back are they going?
Yeah. Does that mean that them as the previous generations, or does that mean they themselves had rejected in the past? Maybe they had different messengers.
Blessing in disguise. It's related with the previous verses.
Yeah.
We're talking about cheating, dishonest, and everything judgmental. And then discuss about blessing in disguise. Wow.
Solomon, there. I think the first they is one group, and the second day is a second. So they, the new ones, were not to believe in what those communities from the past had rejected before. So what? Wait, yeah, they. Is that possible? That it's the first?
It's unlikely.
Okay.
Just because it says they were not to believe in what they had rejected in the past. Sounds like it's talking about the same group, at least. Maybe not the same individuals, but same community, maybe. But maybe,
the
you know, it
history.
could be like they knew that these people had rejected something before, or their ancestors maybe had rejected something, or their parents, and they knew about it, and then something else, and then they rejected because they rejected knowing that these people had, or their people had rejected in the past, perhaps, maybe.
I get this point of blessing in disguise, but I can't describe it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a kind like what a blessing people who understand this, which means they're talk the verse before talking about God, and then some cheating, dishonest, and everything. And after that, God said it's blessing because substitute peace, prosperity in place of that hardship. Who understand about God, they will get peace and prosperity in place of that hardship because
Mm.
like describing about God, it's not as easy as that.
Okay, I see. Yeah, so you're
Yeah,
saying that they had the hardship,
yeah,
but the hardship was a blessing because it made them implore God, and then they got prosperity. That makes sense.
yeah.
Right, right. Then they got something better.
Yes,
Right.
that's why it has related with the verse before.
Right.
Subhanallah.
So it was a blessing that that hardship happened because that made them implore God,
Hmm.
and they God gave them something better.
Yeah,
Right.
like that's why
Yeah.
it's disguise.
Right. Mm.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, I'll take my sahar.
Mhm.
okay.
It's 3.5 year. I'll take my
Three and
Oh,
a
last
half
okay.
year.
sahur of this month. Yes, last
3:30.
sahur.
Okay. Oh, I thought he said it's been 3.5 years.
Oh no.
I'm like, what's a long time?
No, this is my last last sahur on this year.
Oh, oh, nice.
Tomorrow is the last fasting day. Okay. Okay, I'll wake up my wife and daughter. Okay, talk to you guys
Okay,
later.
Salaam
All right,
Alaikum.
talk to you later.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
It seemed like reading the verses about Moses
Mm-hmm.
here, like they were like such good believers in the beginning, almost when they saw the miracle, when the magicians, they said, he's when Pharaoh said, I will cut your hands and your feet in alternate sides, and I will crucify you all.
Mm-hmm.
Their response was like really courageous, and they really sounded like they were trusting in God. And they said, we will then return to our Lord. You persecute us simply because we believed in the proofs of our Lord when they came to us. Our Lord, grant us steadfastness and let us die as submitters. And then, it just seemed like when God, relieved their adversity, they drifted away and started, worshiping the calf and all of that. Because they were under this so much hardship, and so they were imploring God.
Oh wow, yeah. There's a part that's where he tests them. What is that? It's saying, there was a verse where he was saying, yeah, but what will you do once I give you all these, relieve the hardship,
Mm-hmm.
Right. When it's like when you're out at sea, when you're in distress, you're very clear on who you're imploring. But when you're relieved,
Yeah, it says Surah 41, verse 51. That when we bless the human being, he turns away and drifts further and further away. And when he suffers any affliction, he implores loudly. That one?
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. Right. There's a couple like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People have a tendency to remember God and cling to God when things are going bad, and when things are going good, they feel like they don't need to be in gratitude.
Yeah. Bad weather friends, right? The verses that say bad weather friends. Exactly. Bad weather. Yeah. The human being
Fair
never.
weather friends? You mean fair weather friends?
Fair weather friends, I mean, yeah. No, bad weather friends.
Okay.
That they're only friends in bad times, when they're going through bad times.
Well, yeah, doesn't God say that we're weak, we do that, when things are really bad, we cling to God when things are really bad, and when things are good, we tend to forget them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He
30,
has
33.
Yeah. Yeah.
What, Jeff? What?
Yeah. I was just going to say that the message uses that subtitle 3 times.
Yeah. Bad weather friend says, if you're afflicted in the middle of the sea, you forget your idols and sincerely implore him alone. But as soon as he saves you to the shore, you revert. Indeed, the human being is unappreciative.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, then this one literally is 30:33. It says, when adversity afflicts the people, they turn to their Lord, totally devoting themselves to him. But then, as soon as he showers them with mercy, some of them revert to idol worship. Right? And the example he gives about how when people implore God to heal them, and then when they get surgery successful, they thank Saint Jude. But this also happens in this example where, they literally started worshiping the calf when God relieved their adversity, because they said, oh, we have so much hardship. And Moses told them to implore God and be steadfast and seek him. And then they started worshiping the calf.
Good point. So,
he always says to implore him. He gives us issues or hardships so that we can go to implore him. And he also reminds us when things are good, then you should be appreciative and be filled with gratitude and thank him. And
Right.
I remember years ago when I read that, when he said, when things are hard, boy, you remember me, and then you forget me when things are going well. And I was like, oh my God, I do that. I'm not as intense, when things are
Yeah, I mean,
going.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just human, you know, that's what humans do. God says the human being is unappreciative. So because we're human beings, we're all prone to that. But we have to be really blessed by God to remember that it's not a natural thing, basically. But you have to be mindful of God to appreciate that. You have to be, I mean, to know, if you're mindful of the fact that God is doing everything's coming from him. I mean, you will not be able to do that. You'll forget, most likely, right? Appreciating God's blessings. It doesn't come natural, like,
Well,
it doesn't come
you
easy.
have to.
It should come natural.
Yeah, you got to make it a habit, You have to, because we're not prone to that, because it's easy. We're prone to, when things are bad, we go to God and then we kind of neglect him, or are not, as, like I said, as intense in our prayer. But if you're mindful, exactly, that's the right word. If you're mindful, every single day, and then it becomes natural. Now it's very natural for me to be filled with gratitude about, and appreciative. Not 100%, but more times than not now. But you have to, again, mindful. You have to remind yourself, and do it.
Right.
It's interesting. On the other example of bad weather friends, he says the human being never tires of imploring for good things, and when adversity befalls him, he turns despondent, desperate. And so that's what I was thinking, is that you're supposed to relax when adversity falls you. Chill. It's like, it'll be good. Because God is there. That's what I hear by that. It's like that we get so used to him answering our prayer, but then when an adversity is there, why do we abandon God, or do we lose, or do we question? Do we say, why is this happening, or we say, I don't know, lose hope or something? Maybe that's what that was saying to me. It's a different way of understanding that bad weather friends concept I see on this one.
I do that, I resist, and eventually I give in. I don't relax right away. I don't. I wish I was that way. But my first reaction is, oh God, It's and sometimes I am filled with despair, But then I keep going to God, but it takes me a while before I just relax in it and accept it. I'm not one of those people. I wish I was, but I'm not one of those people that, immediately when something bad happens, I'm good with it. I'm just, I haven't learned how to be that way yet. I think you're better at it than I am, Jeff.
We probably all have our hot buttons, So it just depends. Yeah. So yeah.
But it's something to strive for,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's an area for me that I know I can work on, But the trouble is, I know that adversity has to come for me to work on it. And I'm tired right now.
So I was going to say on the verse 145, just on that, poor dog, you're tired. Sorry, sweetie. Okay, so 145, we wrote for him on the tablets all kinds of enlightenments. Yeah. So I imagine how that happened. Obviously, with the we, there's some angelic activity there on tablets. Or, the way they put it in the movie is like tablets of rock. Do we think that's exactly what we're talking about? This is ancient times. I don't know if they had papyrus, but yeah, maybe they did then. Tablets, though, that's definitely different than on papyrus. So then it would have been etched in stone, I think. But also, that's a lot of stone. Did he carry that down? I start thinking about that. It's like, wait a second, how did he carry all that? Because the way they put it in the movies is it's like basically the 10 Commandments are on the two. That's all it is. Well, in the Bible, there really isn't even a 10 Commandments. It's 10 different statements that they simplify the commandments out of, and it's long. So that's just, I'm curious about that. Anybody? Just interesting.
You know what I can't get over? I can't get over Moses talked to God. I mean, he literally talked to him. And that is something that I just can't wrap my brain around. And the other thing, you read where God said he created Moses for him. And I thought, oh my God, I know the Sunnis always say that God created Muhammad for him and the earth, kind of thing. And I thought, if that was written in the Quran, that would be on every mosque. If it was Muhammad, really, if it was Muhammad that God said that about, it'd be in every mosque, everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, they say that everything was created for Muhammad. They say the universe was created for Muhammad. Everything was for him. So then, if everything was for him and Moses was for God, then that's an exception. God created everything for Muhammad and just Moses for him.
Right.
Yeah, that's all they got.
Yeah.
Muhammad got the earth, which we all know is because we messed up, and that's why we're here. So that's not really much. If he created it all for him.
Yeah.
But I know when I read that God said that he created Moses for him, I was like, man, good thing that we didn't have that where he said that about Muhammad, because it would be everywhere. There would be a superiority, even more than they have.
Is.
I said even more than they have now. But he talked to him. He talked to God. That is just mind-blowing to me.
I was just thinking of a subtle distinction that we all talk to God. The difference is that God talked back.
That's what I'm talking about. God talked to him.
I know. I was just subtle distinction, but it's interesting. He did, and it's interesting as I say that. I think to myself, but God does talk to us with our consequences and things like that. That there is a communication. It's just not with language and in the mind or whatever. It's through signs.
Right. It's inspiration.
Yeah.
But I do think about that. I do think about, and you know that, Jeff. I always say, can you imagine God talk to him? Or when God was as close to Muhammad as what an arrow's length. That's like so mind-blowing.
I can't fathom any of that stuff. I mean, if all the creation, it's as if it was in his hand. How does the hand move closer? I mean, it's not a hand, but I'm just saying that even the getting closer when it's all in his hand anyway, and the idea of distance, I don't get that very well. I mean, God, that's one thing, is that a lot of people have the erroneous idea that God is spirit, that God is just spirit. And the messenger made it really clear that God is more physical than anything physical, you know, that it's not true that God is just spirit, or because, and the reason is because this notion of God approaching, and then the universe implodes, and all of the consequence that happens as this entity moves closer. And so that's the proof of that.
So the righteous, those who are closest to God in the other realm, are you saying they'll be able to see him?
Yes, sebentar.
Are you saying they'll be able to see God?
Yeah, we will all be able to see God in the hereafter.
Well, I thought that only the ones who are closest to God will see him.
No, we will all on the day of judgment, even the disbelievers will be able to see God. Like they'll be able to see that, you know, the other dimension. But they obviously, when they go to hell, then hell will be a place where it is farthest from God, farther than the earth.
Yeah.
So then they
There's a
will
labyrinth.
not be able to.
Yeah, what can you think? I can't think of anything worse than God not paying attention, or turning away from me, or ignoring me. I can't think. That's hell. That's hell. Is to be devoid of God.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, just when you imagine, like, you know, like hell cannot be worse. You know, I mean, like there's more in hell.
You know, I always think about what God says when he says, you know, I give you problems here, but they're short term. I lift them after a time from you and give you relief, but they're never lifted. And I always think about that. I say, oh my gosh, that's awful. You know, to that it's constant. I would, that's awful.
Yeah. Also, another interesting, well, maybe not that interesting, but you know, thinking about what people make hell out to be in this world, when, you know, like they use the word hell so loosely, and when they actually go to hell, they're like, oh, so this is hell.
So how is hell I mean, I've heard that the hellfire is an analogy,
Well,
and then I heard
it's allegorical,
real.
yeah.
I'm sorry,
What's
an
allegorical?
allegory.
Yeah, I mean allegorical in the sense that, you know, it's the descriptions are based on the things that we acknowledge, we know, we can recognize, to give us an idea. But the thing is, we because we're not there, we haven't tasted anything like that, whether it's heaven or hell. The descriptions are allegorical, and it's like, you know, and the Master of the Covenant gave the example of chocolate. You know, I mean, for someone who hasn't
Right.
tasted chocolate, you can't really describe what chocolate is or how it tastes like. You have to give
Right, or a
them
blind person.
allegories.
Right, or a
Right,
blind person. You can't explain color to them. You know,
right,
never see because they've never seen it. They don't know what it is.
right.
I guess I didn't think about that. We all see God. In the other realm. I thought only I thought there were only the righteous, the elite of the elite actually see God's face. I didn't know that everybody sees it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of exciting, actually.
Yeah, I mean, exciting if our souls are, inshallah, our souls are, strong enough to withstand God's physical presence. Then that will be, something good. But for people who will not have that, I mean, for them it will be a difficult experience, because then they will run to hell. So,
Yeah.
but for the believers, it will be a beautiful. Of course, it will be.
You mean they'll take themselves to hell?
Yeah, they'll run
God
because
doesn't
they
put
can't
anybody.
withstand it.
Yeah, the messenger gives a really good example with the bugs in a light outside, where you have like a lamp outside, and you always see how the bugs they really fight to get inside that glass outer shell so they can get into right where the light bulb is, and then when they get there, they fry. And he's using that. God gave us that as an analogy of people just bending over backwards, doing anything they can to get into hell. Why? Because they cannot withstand the wonderful the presence of God. They can't. They didn't develop their souls enough, and they can't withstand it. They're what did he say? They are storming the gates of hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and also that shows how God doesn't put them to hell. They go to hell. It's very symbolic too. Like God designed it such a way that they go on their own.
It really is. It really is.
I find that really scary, actually.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That was one of the concepts that we learned with the messengers, that how we're literally growing our souls to be able to withstand his presence. That literally, there's a mechanism. You need to. I mean, we have examples of development and growing and stuff all around us with plants and kids, our lives developing. I mean, it's a concept we understand really well. I mean, and literally it's exactly what we need to be doing to our real person. Or else we're going to be diving in the gates of hell. But why, by the way, which it's interesting because there are 7 gates of hell. And so the less development you have, you're going to try to find the lowest one, because it still will hurt you, right? In the higher hell, if you have no development, you're in the one of the higher 7 gates of hell. You're looking for the lowest gate if you have no development or negative development.
Yeah, but also I think we're assuming that the gates are, it's like a 7-story thing, but it could just be like a pie. Also, but yeah, it could have its lowest pit too.
Oh yeah, pipe. Yeah, the pipe that leads to the bottom of the pile.
Right.
Because he does say we're stacked on top of each other too. They are.
Or like a pile. Or like a pipe. I said pie. Sorry, I meant pie. Yeah.
Oh! What? A pie?
Yeah, like 7 gates on each side. Like a round thing, maybe. Also, like not necessarily levels, but like parallel gates.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Oh, you mean that there's 7 gates to get in, and the lowest will find the lowest spot. It doesn't mean there's 7 layers.
Yeah, it could be that too.
Okay, so now what is purgatory? Where do they go?
They go to heaven.
No, I mean no. I'm saying in the meantime, are they in a purgatory? Is this during the judgment day is purgatory, or is it right after you die?
I wouldn't
I
know.
think we don't know. Yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
we know
That's
on the
okay.
day of judgment, they will be in that place,
Oh, okay.
and then they will be annexed into the lower heaven.
Right.
Yeah.
Which God said, hey, don't feel bad about that. That's still a success.
Mm-hmm.
Well, inshallah, should I end the broadcast or?
I think we can end the broadcast and just let everyone know. I just want to let everyone know that our next study is not gonna. I mean, next week we're not gonna have studies on Sunday. It's gonna be on Thursday.
Yep.
So our schedule's gonna change to every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific time on Saturdays, and then on Thursdays it's gonna be 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific time.
Inshallah. Okay, God bless and Ramadan Mubarak to everybody. Hopefully, I have benefited from this wonderful feast. And so, Salãmun Alaykum.
Salãmun Alaykum.
Sorry I went off